Well, first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me out for this. This is my first time, so I'm very excited. So my journey began 5 years ago. I was on my way to work. Like you mentioned, I work as a behavior specialist with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And on my way to work, I saw a gentleman similar to this kind of a scene where he's just sleeping under a business overhang. And my heart just broke, all right? In that moment, I became so upset that, as a society, as one of the richest countries in the world, that this was the best that we could do. And I just started thinking, I just became so frustrated and said, why isn't somebody doing something about this? And then just this overwhelming feeling like a punch to the gut just came and hit me and said, you're somebody, why aren't you doing something about this? And in that moment, I had to take a step back because I wasn't ready for that kind of a thought in that moment, just on my way to work, a normal work day, but that feeling would not go away. It would not leave me alone. You're somebody, why aren't you doing something about this? Why aren't you? Until it got to the point where I said, why am I not doing something about this? And so I said, okay, well, what would I do? And so I came at it from, the behavior specialist mindset of seeing that behavior pattern of people kind of getting stuck in that cycle and saying, okay, how do we break that pattern? How do we break free? And it really came down to housing first, right? That housing first initiative of having shelter first and then connecting people to those other resources to help them take those next steps. And I looked at tiny homes and teardrop trailers and pallet shelters, and there's lots of really cool ideas out there. And through my research, I came across the Japanese business hotels, which if you've never seen Japanese business hotels, it's pretty similar to the trailer that I have out there. It's just a space to sleep, right? It's just, usually they're like 3 feet wide. They're really, really small. These are a lot bigger and more spacious, but it's just a place to sleep. And then you have the community bathrooms and showers and all those things to use. And so you get just what you need. And I love the efficiency, the simplicity of it. And I just said, that's it. We should build a shelter like that. Well, I'm just some random guy, so there's no way I'm going to be able to, build a shelter like that. And so I said, okay, well, what can I do? And so I eventually came up, with this concept, which is the sleep trailer model. And so it's 8 individual pods. There's 4 on the bottom. There's 4 on the top. Each pod measures, the width is 4 feet, 8 inches wide and 4 feet tall and 8 feet long. So, and you guys will have a chance to see it today. It's a lot bigger than you think because you look at you see the doors and you think it's that big, but it's actually a lot bigger once you get in there. But plenty of space to sleep, store a few of your belongings and keep it safe, and then hopefully take those next steps. So there's a window on the opposite side that acts as an emergency exit. There's a CO2 smoke detector in each of the units. It's coated with a waterproof paint, like a truck bed liner paint with a drain in each floor. So if needed, you could spray it down, disinfect it, and clean it out and get ready for the next person to use it. There's also a fireproof coating that could be done. And then the prototype doesn't have it, but we can also add like a mini split to do heat and AC for those extreme weather times of the year, as well as a dehumidifier, which is really important in a small space. So lots of options, lots of flexibility, but I really saw this as, and vents on each side, so you get that passive air so that you're not, people aren't sitting in that stagnant air. So with it being on a trailer, it adds a lot of flexibility into where it can be used and how it can help out and who it can help. And so, so one of our goals is to raise funds to sponsor a trailer. So talking to businesses, getting their advertisements on the pods, or if they want to sponsor a whole trailer. And then we would lease them out to shelters that need it for about $5,000 a year, which is about $1.72 per bed per day. So a very reasonable way to get as many people off the street and have them have a safe place to sleep at night, which is really key. We also have the option to buying outright, so it's not just the leasing option, they could buy it outright, but I wanted to do the leasing option because I know, funds are tight sometimes. And so that might be an option to get more out there and actually get more people off the street and getting more people a safe place to sleep at night. So the idea and the thought is by partnering with existing shelters, we could pull it into their parking lot or their property, and then they could have 8 more beds. Right, which is the biggest resource that is missing. And there is tons of funding and tons of resources out there. The thing that is missing are beds, and safe beds at that. So a lot of people don't feel safe in the congregate setting, because you're sleeping on a mat and you're, 5 feet away from somebody that you don't know, that maybe they're having a mental health crisis that day, or maybe they're, you don't know what you're dealing with. And so you're not really getting restful sleep. You're looking out and kind of sleeping with one eye open, and we've all been there on those nights where you don't get a lot of sleep, right? When you are not sleeping or you only get a couple hours of sleep, you're not thinking as rationally, you're not thinking as reasonably, and your mental health isn't in as good a state. So compound that with days and days and days, and then we're expecting individuals to make these really important big decisions for their life to get their lives back on track. And it's not a reasonable request, which is why the Housing First method, we've seen a lot of great success throughout the country in different places that are trying the Housing First method. So, having the sleep trailer allows somebody to rest and kind of stabilize, right? Because that's the biggest thing. If you're in that 24-hour mentality, you're not thinking about next year or next week, you're thinking about today, the next few hours. Am I going to be able to sleep safely throughout the night without somebody coming in and harming me or stealing my belongings or kicking me out of wherever I'm sleeping, right? And so by having a place that you can stabilize, it then allows people to connect to those next resources. I was speaking with a case manager the other day, and he was mentioning how there are a lot of resources out there right now, but it's oftentimes hard to find people because they're here one day and then they're here another day and then they're here another day. And so they have the resources that they can connect them to and the people want them, but because they're moving around and they don't have a solid place where they could, like a home base, they can't connect to those next resources, whether that's rehab services the next day, whether that's health services. There's a lot of people that have a lot of really serious health conditions that are experiencing homelessness, mental health, supports, or just getting on that housing list or that housing voucher or connecting them with employment. All those things become easier when you have a home base, when you have a foundation, just a place to kind of call your own and gather your thoughts. That's the biggest thing, is just having that privacy too, right? If you've ever gone into a shelter, there's just people everywhere and, just people randomly looking at you and watching you. And so having your own space where you can shut that door and lock it and you're safe, even if your next door neighbor is having a mental health crisis, you're safe, you're going to be okay. And you should be able to sleep a lot more soundly throughout the night knowing that. You don't have to worry about your stuff being stolen. You don't have to worry about harm coming to you because you're in a safe place. So there's lots of different ways that the sleep trailer could be used. So for example, cities or counties or states or organizations purchase the sleep trailers to be used in their areas for homelessness. So it can be used for homelessness. It can be used for disaster relief. It could be used for firefighters. I mean, we all were here when the forest fires happened and displaced, tons of people that needed a place to go. Well, what if we were a little bit more proactive and had places already? And then they came in and we were able to say, hey, it's not much, but you can sleep safely through the night until you figure out what your next step is, where your next move is. So this could be really a great asset for any city. One of the great things about something like this is once it's built, it's here. It doesn't, you go and bring food to the shelter and you feed everybody, and that's great. But then they need food tomorrow too, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And not that it's not important, but I really wanted to find something that was lasting, that was permanent, that really helped break that cycle, break that mentality, and get people to that next step. Maybe a hotel or motel or hostels could take them on and rent out spaces for much cheaper to give people a place to sleep at night. I know there's lots of programs that do where they come in and they like pay for a night at the hotel to get somebody through a couple nights. Well, we could set something up like this where they could do that. A business could do that same thing, and maybe they could even advertise or sponsor, hey, support somebody having a safe place to sleep at night. $5 a night helps somebody have a safe place to sleep at night. Again, something more economically reasonable and safe and secure, and really helps people take that next step. So so we've been working on looking at city ordinances and different things. And one of the rules is trailers can't be in a certain spot for more than 90 days, right? Well, sleep trailer is a great solution for that too. You could partner with a bunch of churches or organizations, and you could take all those trailers, park them in one church parking lot for 90 days. And when that 90 days is up, take them, move them to another church parking lot. And then that can also help redistribute the services, redistribute the need, and really help people where they're at in their community. Instead of, we see a lot of people flocking to, Portland or Eugene or Salem or all these different locations, but really help people where they're at, where their family's at, where their community's at, where their connections are at. So what do we need? What does sleep trailer need? What do we need help with? Well, there's lots of different things. One of the things we're looking for is businesses that may want to sponsor a pod. So if they want, and we could add their advertisement to the window and to the door of that pod. You'll have a chance to see it when you go out and check out the sleep trailer today, but the window is actually a privacy screen, so people can see out, but people can't see in, which allows that. It's really nice when you're inside to to know what's going on outside. But then it also gives them that privacy and that peace of mind that people aren't, staring at them and looking down on them, right? And again, it goes back to that peace of mind. So we could put your business advertisement on that window, which would give them privacy, and then we'd add another advertisement to the door, and that would be the pod that your business or group or family wanted to sponsor. And then if we got that for every pod, then we can build the shelter and then start getting it out to the shelters and get it to the places that are in need. Kind of flew through that. All right. I knew we were kind of short on time. So networking is the other thing we need. When I say I'm just some random guy, I mean it. I'm not super well connected and had all these connections. I was just somebody that said, man, I'm sick of sitting around wondering, what's going on. I'm going out there. I'm going to do something about it. When the time came, we finally found a manufacturer in 2021. And I talked to my wife and I just said, okay, we got two options. Either we go for it and we do it the best that we think we can do it, or I'm that grumpy guy sitting on the porch wondering what could have happened for the rest of my life. And I really don't want to be number two. So please help me. Let's give it all we got. And so, we took out loans, we borrowed money, we took out savings to make this a reality. This isn't, just something that I was like, oh, with my extra funds, I'm going to go and do this thing. No, it was something that I said, this has to exist. This has to be an option out there. And meeting with individuals experiencing homelessness, meeting with shelters, it's amazing to see just how wide their eyes get when they see the possibilities and possible solutions for this. So if you know somebody, if you can connect us to somebody, or if you can share our information with somebody, it's greatly appreciated. So we're looking. We're looking from anything city council members, mayors, governors, shelter managers, directors, businesses that want to help fund or advertise their business. I mean, you could use it as a business write-off, even as for a marketing expense. And then other people that just want to help. Anything like that would be greatly appreciated for our journey. One of the other big things we need is placement. So once these are built, we need places for our trailers to go. So if we can secure locations for trailers to be used, raising funds become easier, right? So if we have let's say Helping Hands wants a trailer, it's a lot easier to raise funds if people know exactly where it's going and how it's being helped, and it's a lot easier to raise those funds for to building a sleep trailer. So if there are shelters or people that you know that you can connect to us, that would be greatly beneficial for us. Ideally, we would have several different locations to help spread out the capacity resources so we can help people wherever they're at. Help us find shelters wanting to lease so we can add them to our wait list. Here's my kids who are the #1 fans of Sleep Trailer. He wore that shirt today. He's like, I'm wearing this for your presentation today. Proud dad heart, right? So again, going back to spreading out the resources, it's hard when everything's congregated in one spot. But if we can, with Sleep Trailer, there's a possibility where we could spread them out to lots of different locations and have them all across the city, and really help connect people to where they're at. Maybe have them connected to a job, or have them connected to different businesses or resources in those areas that could really help make an impact. Different churches. The possibilities are pretty limitless when it comes to this. So you may or may not know, but Oregon has over 15,000 individuals experiencing homelessness. They just did a count recently, and I never heard the number. Michael, do you know the number for that?
For the point in time?
Yeah.
Reporting was just recently done. That is going to be.
They haven't released it. Okay, I knew it was done, but I wasn't sure if they had got the numbers out yet, and I hadn't heard everyone that I kept asking, nobody knew yet. So. And then the same thing goes for the state, right? So here we are in the state of Oregon. Instead of everybody congregating to Portland or Corvallis or Eugene, we could help people all across the state where they're at, where their families at, where their connections are at, to get back on their feet. The demographics of homelessness are changing drastically. With the pandemic, with job loss, with different medical things going on. It's not the same individuals that you saw 20 years ago. It's your next door neighbor. It's so many people just have the most heartbreaking, tragic stories. It's fires that burn your house down and you got nowhere to go. And so there's so many people out there that are needing those connections. And so if we could get Sleep Trailer, then we could get them to wherever they are needed. And then let's say it's not needed here anymore, but it's needed maybe in Klamath Falls. Well, great, we'll take that one and move it down to Klamath. It's easy to be flexible and take it to where the need is at. It's not stagnant and stuck wherever it's located. So again, the possibilities are limitless. Working with some organizations that are doing affordable housing. Well, what if we can first get Sleep Trailers there so we can get people off the street now while the affordable housing is being built? And then they go from the street into the Sleep Trailer, and then boom, into affordable housing, and then into permanent housing. And so it's just, Sleep Trailer isn't everything, but it's a major piece of the puzzle that's been missing for a really long time. And it could be a great solution for so many. Talking with some shelters, recently they were talking about, using it for, they had some COVID outbreaks, right? And so these shelters had to basically just say, hey, I'm sorry, but you can't be here anymore. And they had to just kind of push them out. And how heart-wrenching that is for these people that do this work because they love these people, but they can't risk that with the other people that are already there. And so, you know, sleep trailer could be a solution for that. There's many people that have pets, and many pets aren't allowed into many shelters. Well, sleep trailer could be a solution for that, right? They could have their pet in their sleep trailer with them and share that space, and they won't have to worry about the safety of other people around. There's families, women's shelters could be a great beneficiary of this. Like I said, there are limitless opportunities, not even just for people experiencing houselessness, just limitless opportunities in general. But the whole reason I started this, the whole reason I went on this journey 5 years ago is for those people experiencing homelessness. And so I'm going down that path as long and as far as I can until every door is slammed in my face, and then maybe I try something else. But I'm bound and determined to help people have a safe place to sleep at night. So I was speaking with a shelter in Salem, and they were talking to me telling me that the average stay in their shelter is about 3 months. Right, so I rounded that up and I said, okay, well, let's say it's 6 months. That means if we just built one shelter every year, just one shelter every year, that first year, we would help 16 people have a safe place to sleep, at least, right? That second year, there's 32 people. If we add a second trailer again, because that resource doesn't go away, it's not the bed doesn't disappear. But then you add another bed, that's another 16, you know, so now you've helped 32 people that second year. That fourth year, just by adding one more trailer, 48 people that you've helped in that year. Do it again. By the fifth year, you've helped 240 people over that 5 year time, you know, if you add up all the years. And that's estimating fairly conservatively, right? It could be up to 480 if we use the average that they gave us. And so again, the possibilities are limitless with this. Because having a space to call your own and gain privacy helps people begin the process of stabilization. And stabilization takes different times for different people, you know, so some people, oh, how long can they stay there? How long can they be there? As long as it takes to stabilize, where some people aren't going to need as long, other people are going to need longer. It's not, we can't use a one size fits all approach to ending chronic homelessness. We have to have multiple things available. When your brain's in that survivor mentality, you're not thinking about the long-term plan on how to get yourself out of the cycle. Instead, it's focused on how to get through the next 24, 48 hours. Again, I've talked about that a little bit already, but being able to, and it's not much, you'll see, right? It's 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet long, but it's enough where you can get in there. And the minute you get in there, you're safe, you know you're safe, and you start thinking immediately, okay, how do I get out? Right? Like, what's the next step? It's not, you know, it's not staying at the Hilton. It's just a place to gather your thoughts, stabilize, be safe, feel safe, and then say, okay, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. What else is out there? What else can I go to? What else can I connect to? And that goes and goes and goes for generations. I mean, think about the generations that we could help with just one sleep trailer. And then, you know, multiply that. Let's say we built 25 trailers every year, right? By the end of the 5th year, that's 21,600 people that could have had a safe place to sleep at night. So speaking with a shelter, so I'm really well connected to a shelter in Salem and Albany, but talking with the Church of the Park up in Salem, they have a 70% positive placement rate with that permanent housing first approach. And that's from their unit that's based primarily on families. The 70%. Imagine if we could by next year, take 70% of the people that are experiencing homelessness and have them on a positive path to bettering their lives. At their other shelter that's not primarily on families, it's 40%, which is still amazing. If you think about over 15,000 people experiencing homelessness, that is remarkable how many people we could help if we pooled those resources and took that time and really gave it a shot to help people on the next step. Well, again, restful sleep, kind of like we said before, when you have restful sleep, it improves your mood, improves your mental health, decreases stress and anxiety, boosts your immune system, and improves memory. That's scientific, just basic facts on getting good sleep. So if nothing else, what if we just help people get that, right? And how many people could then help themselves to take? So we can't force people to take that next step, right? As much as we want to, as much as we'd love to, but what we can do is create the conditions that make it possible. Because right now it's really, really not, or it's really difficult. So if we can create those conditions to help people then take that next step, it's going to be a world of difference. If we can provide this basic need, we can give people a foundation to build off of and a chance to people to break the cycle of chronic homelessness. I hope I covered mostly everything in here, but if you guys have any questions, or if you're on any social media, we'd love for you to follow us and follow our journey as we try to change the world. Yeah, Audrey.